Coming up, I take a look back at some moments on SummerSlam that really stuck out. So, maybe one of your favorite moments made the list.
No, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just going to keep you right where you're at right now. It doesn't matter what you think.
The Wrestling Wrealm presents Break It Down with Bryan H.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of Break It Down with Bryan H. I'm your host, Bryan H. Waters. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button. We're talking WWE Summerslam. We're going to talk some of the moments. Usually I do a prediction show, and maybe that'll come about. Maybe it won't. Definitely a post show will come. But I was looking through the archives, and I said, you know what? There isn't anything in the Wrestling Wrealm channels where I discuss my favorite SummerSlam moments or the best of SummerSlam. And I said, well, instead of doing that exactly, I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in the history of this great pay-per-view, and I'm just going to pull out some random moments and just talk about those. And, I'm going to go ahead and I got a special soft spot for this music, man. This takes me back to the 1998 SummerSlam. We had the Highway to Hell. That was AC/DC on the track. But we had the Highway to Hell. We had Austin and Undertaker. We had Rock and Triple H. DX versus Mankind and Kane. DX being the Outlaws. We had Sable and Edge, our mystery partner, taking on Mark Marrow and Jackson. So much more. But I just had to play that music because that song got me hyped for that year's SummerSlam. It's one of my favorite pay-per-views in the entire year. It's never been on. I'm going to make it happen. Won't be going this year. I took it to the WWE Thunder. But let's get right into it. So, SummerSlam matches. To me, this guy is Mr. SummerSlam, and that is Bret the Hitman Hart, which right before I started recording this, I learned that the WWE pulled his content off the network. More to come. I'll find out. I'm wondering why. I hope he ain't do nothing crazy, but it's weird, and there's always a rocky relationship with the WWE and with Bret the Hitman Hart. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I think about him, Daniel Bryan. They're two of my favorites. And I'm wondering what could have possibly happened. But nonetheless, you look back and, like I said, you look at the history of SummerSlam, right? And you can't tell the history of SummerSlam without Bret Hart. And the match I have on here is the match with him and Mr. Perfect. Perfect was, just an incredible ring general. When you think of ring generals, you think of Mr. Perfect. You think of the Perfect Plex, just his style, his charisma. And it's unfortunate that his son, Curtis Axel, couldn't really recapture that magic. But, that's high expectations. Let's be real. But I think about this match. This was the match so the year before, Bret and his brother-in-law, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, won the tag titles. I believe that was SummerSlam 89. Actually, that was 89. So the year before that was 2 years before that. But 91, he wins the Intercontinental Championship. This is his first singles title run of many, his first Intercontinental Championship run. And you look back to see, you knew that he was up next if you were a wrestling fan. And I read his book, and I remember him discussing how he was ready for that singles run earlier, but the Anvil had got to Vince and convinced him to do another tag run, and he was unhappy with that. But and Mr. Perfect, one thing you gotta mention is Mr. Perfect wrestled this match with a bad back, but he wanted to get the match for Bret. I believe it was this match. I know these two would take on each other again at the King of the Ring. If I'm mistaken, maybe that was the match, but I believe this one was the match with the bad back. But nonetheless, Bret and Mr. Perfect, just an incredible match. Go back and look at it. I didn't put Bret and Davey on this list. It's my favorite SummerSlam match of all time, but it's kind of obvious. It's on every list. And I said this show was going to be kind of random. I picked out some matches that really stuck out, and then, I'm going to talk about them. But I didn't want to put that match on there because I was like, we all know, I think you could say everything you say about it. They just did a WWE backstage where they did a watch along. Like I said, the match was great. Bret and Davey went out there, toward the house, and I'm talking about it. But, before there was Bret and Davey, it was Bret and Mr. Perfect. My next match that I have on this list, John Cena and AJ Styles. AJ Styles was victorious. This right here, if you didn't think AJ belonged in the WWE, which you should have, this right here should have definitely let you know, because this was WWE putting their biggest star in the ring with AJ Styles. John Cena and AJ Styles, you think about, you always hear this talk about Vince McMahon saying he wished he would have had AJ Styles years ago. You hear that a lot. But when you think about this, to me, he came right on time. Because I was sitting there looking at some old TNA stuff. And sure, he was good. But he didn't have that charisma. He didn't have that it factor. And he really developed that going over to New Japan, hanging out with Anderson and Gallows. And, right here, this match with John Cena, like I said, just the build up and everything. Go back and watch it. And these two were going to have tons of classic matches. You look at John Cena's career, AJ Styles won't be, for some people, I should say, he probably won't be in your top 3 of John Cena's rivals. You think of John Cena, Randy Orton, John Cena, CM Punk, and then, Cena Rock for crossover purposes, Cena Batista because they both came up around the same time, Cena Edge. But, AJ Styles definitely deserves to be in that conversation because when these two got in the ring, they definitely made magic. Another match, I mentioned SummerSlam 1998, The Rock and Triple H in a ladder match. The match that stole the show, in my opinion. I just watched it today. An incredible match. You had these two guys. You had Triple H, who was the leader of DX, still trying to prove that he could carry this group without Shawn Michaels, and he deserved to be a main eventer. But then you had The Rock, who was coming. He was on the fast track. He's defending the Intercontinental Championship, and dare say that match was just as important as the main event. Go back and see the build up towards it. But then also, Fully Loaded, they wrestled for the IC title, and this is Triple H trying to get his belt back after The Rock beat him, and due to interference from the Nation. And you had those two wrestle to a draw, a time limit draw. So you put the match in a ladder match, and it just felt real. I remember being, how was I, SummerSlam 98, 12 years old, 11, 12. And that whole summer, you just thought these two hated each other. So, like I said, go back and watch this match. Just overall incredible. I mixed up my pictures, but then I'm gonna go right to the main event of that night, Stone Cold and the Undertaker. Now, the match itself wasn't the greatest according to their standards, but it was enjoyable. I sat back, and it was the story. Vince McMahon kept telling everybody, cahoots, cahoots, cahoots. Now, I tell people, especially a lot of people who wasn't watching wrestling at this time or wasn't born at this time, this is a match that was set. The story for this one started at the King of the Ring in June. You had Undertaker versus Kane. Austin versus Kane, WWE Championship on the line, first blood match, following the iconic Hell in a Cell match with Mick Foley, aka Mankind, and the Undertaker. Well, during that match, Kane said he would set himself on fire if he didn't win the WWE Championship. Undertaker comes out there. Now, mind you, Undertaker and Kane just wrapped up their rivalry, WrestleMania 14, Unforgiven. They just wrapped it up. But Undertaker, Kane still his brother. He didn't want to see him set himself on fire. So Undertaker went out there and he apparently, it looks like he went to hit Kane, but he hit Austin with the chair, but Austin was bleeding. Undertaker woke up the ref. So you tell me. So now they're planting the seeds. Vince McMahon started saying that these two were in cahoots. I ain't gonna lie. I didn't know what cahoots meant at the time, but growing up, that's what I learned from wrestling education. So Undertaker comes out there the next week on Raw. Well, Austin loses the title. Next night he regains it. Quickest, shortest reign ever, but he regains the title. After he regains the title, then the next week, Kane has to face the Undertaker. And maybe Mankind, if I'm not mistaken, may have been a triple threat match or may have been one-on-one. But the winner would face Austin at SummerSlam. They made it clear at SummerSlam. Guess who wins? Undertaker wins. So now he's set. Number one contender. Hasn't had a title shot since losing the title the year before at SummerSlam. It's just that big time title shot since he lost it to Bret the year before. So now, as the Undertaker gets set for, so we go to Fully Loaded, and somehow or another, Austin and Undertaker are paired up. I forgot how it happened. Oh, Mick Foley, Mankind and Kane, because they was both under Paul Bearer, they won the tag titles from the New Age Outlaws. So then, Undertaker, Vince McMahon, to create controversy, he was going to make them team up. You guys got to team up at Fully Loaded because that's the last stop before the highway to hell. Well, these two go ahead and win the tag titles. Now, they would lose them a couple weeks later on Raw, but they was never buddy-buddy. And then Undertaker, Vince McMahon still saying cahoots. Just the week before SummerSlam, that's when it was revealed, it was official. Undertaker and Kane were in cahoots. They were partners. Now, I have to note this. When Undertaker won the tag team titles, he pinned Kane. And that's what tried to throw that off. But nonetheless, this will lead to them having this epic clash. Like I said, the build-up was much better than the match. Like I said, the match, to me, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought the match was good. Me saying it wasn't that great is me listening to the booking and listening to Austin and Taker and them. To me, as a wrestling fan, knowing my place, I enjoyed the match. So I'll tell you, go ahead and look at it. See what you think. Don't think about what people say, but just see what you think. But if you have time, go back to the King of the Ring and watch every Monday Night Raw, because they ain't have SmackDown at the time. But watch every Monday Night Raw and some of the Sunday Night Heats leading up to SummerSlam 98. Here's a match that a lot of people like to make fun of, and guess what? I enjoyed it. Hulk Hogan versus Shawn Michaels. Now, at this time, I was not a Shawn Michaels fan. I'm a huge Bret Hart fan. I'm a Hogan fan. And the reason why I wasn't a Shawn Michaels fan is because simply of the Montreal Screwjob. So to see Hulk Hogan go in there and beat him, yeah, I was happy. Now, of course, Shawn oversold the heck out of it, and a lot of people talk about, oh, Shawn did this and this and that. So I don't care. Don't matter to me. I enjoyed it. Hulk Hogan beat Shawn Michaels. So what? But, it was cool. Two legends met. And the thing is, the reason why it didn't bother me, because Shawn Michaels turned on Hogan on 4th of July, so. Let's move on. Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle. I mean, anytime you get these two in a match, it's always epic. It's a shame that Kurt Angle left the WWE for a while. because, it's not a shame because if you think about him, it probably saved his life. But, him being addicted to painkillers and stuff. But there's so much of history that could have been there. And you look at him and Brock and how much more they could have did. They could have had a storied rivalry as a Randy Orton and John Cena, just the way we consume the product now. But this was definitely a match that was fun, and it was fun to watch this build up as well. Now, here's another match that I really enjoyed, and this is Chris Jericho and Rhino with Stephanie McMahon in Rhino's corner. This is SummerSlam 2001, and I got to take you to the time. You had the invasion where WCW and ECW had invaded WWE. This is the month after the invasion. Stephanie McMahon is in control of ECW with Paul Heyman under her, while Shane is in control of WWE, and they were known as the Unholy or the Alliance, right? And this right here was another level of Chris Jericho and Stephanie McMahon. You could put together a best of series with them two. I mean, just instant chemistry. He always called her a trash bag hoe. And I was like, man, he's saying all this rude stuff, from when she was with Triple H and now this. And so this is just another rivalry, another chapter in their rivalry. And that's why I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the build up. And this is where this was, to me, the reason why they used Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. Yeah, you had the whole thing with Austin and Angle and Rock and Booker T, but it was this right here. And it just, a lot of times, seeing the video package was this. And of course, this is when Stephanie McMahon had got her breast enhanced, and Jericho made note of it and said, ain't gonna be saying let the bodies hit the floor. They're gonna be saying let the boobies hit the floor. This one right here, SummerSlam 2013, the WWE Championship. Now, this is also going to end up in my things that annoyed me after the break. But I'm going to talk about the good part, the match of the night. I know some people like Punk Lesnar, but this was the match of the night. It's the reason I even bought the Blu-ray. Where my guy, Daniel Bryan, wins his first WWE Championship. That title right there. It was exciting. Just the match had everything you wanted to be. Two guys just giving it their all. You're wondering. I remember we was at Loafers. I'm with my uncle and a few of my friends, and you're wondering, can Daniel Bryan do it, or is John Cena going to do it? This is also right around the time of Total Divas. So a lot of people thought that maybe they was going to create a Total Divas storyline and say something along the lines of like, hey, let's go ahead and have a match. But they didn't. They didn't overdo it. They didn't overkill it. In the end, it was Daniel Bryan becoming the WWE champion. And we'll talk about what else happened later. Last year, 2019, SummerSlam 2019, WWE Championship on the line, Kofi Kingston taking on Randy Orton. The reason why I enjoyed this, because one, I was nervous. Going into it, watching, I was nervous because Randy Orton was the reason Kofi was held back. Instead of when Kofi missed the spot years ago, kept yelling stupid, 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 and he used his white privilege to hold Kofi Kingston back. Let's call it for what it is. And because of that, we in this situation. So it was disappointing. Very disappointing to see that. And you're wondering when this happened. Because Randy Orton kept saying, you wasn't ready, and you still not ready. So you're watching this match, and you're nervous. Is this how they're going to do it? They're going to take the title off Kofi. You feel like, okay, we're happy he's had the title since WrestleMania. But can he get this back? Can he get this win back? And he didn't win this match. He would win the next month, but I believe it was either no contest or he lost due to disqualification. But you saw him kick into another gear when Randy Orton was disrespectful to his family, and Kofi would beat him with the kendo stick, and I loved every bit of it. And I was happy that Kofi did get the 1, 2, 3 the following week. I'm going back to SummerSlam 94. A memorable moment. When you talk about double cross, I mentioned on the last episode of Break It Down with Brian H., which you can check out if you didn't yet, right on our YouTube channel. I mentioned that right now MVP is trying to lure Cedric Alexander to become a part of the Hurt's business. And I said this is reminding me of SummerSlam, leading into SummerSlam 94, where you had Lex Luger, who was being recruited by $1 Million Man. And everybody knows $1 Million Man's slogan is everybody's got a price. Well, they had a match, and during the match at the end, it was Tatanka that sold out. The very thing he accused Lex Luger of doing, he was the one who sold out and joined the corporation. Now, unfortunately, it didn't do much for him, but this is just like one of those things that just stuck out to me at SummerSlam. So those are just a few moments, and like I said, I'm actually going to do a separate episode. The next episode will be the women of SummerSlam, but these were a few things that just stuck out. And I know a lot of people have a lot of memories. Matter of fact, in season 1, the real Dwayne Allen and I actually did a best of SummerSlam. But I was thinking, I said, I just wanted to talk about this pay-per-view and talk about some of those just random moments. Sometimes, you just want to sit back and just talk random moments in wrestling. So that's what I wanted to do here. Before there was a WWE Network, before I go to break, I actually bought, it used to have a box, but the box broke. I actually bought the anthology. The anthology right here, if you're watching on YouTube and holding it up. I bought this. So at the time I worked at Best Buy. Shout out to my friend Christy. She was, Kristen actually that night I have friends named Christy and Kristen, and they were best friends. So cool. But Kristen that night was actually working, and she was downstocking. And that means when something's been on the shelf, well, in this case, I guess maybe that's not the proper term for it, but these products have been on the shelf too long because nobody bought them, right? We only had two of those, and somebody bought one. I believe it was actually a wrestler at the time, or bought it for a friend. And then there was that one. So that night she was like, yeah, I'm downstocking, I'm about to send these back. I said, wait, you gonna send them back? She was like, yeah. And I said, oh man, how much is it? So we were selling it for $199. I'm about to let a secret. I don't care who's gonna stop me. It's not secret information. So Best Buy employees discount is at cost. So if it costs the company, say one of these HDMI cables, you see them in the store in $19.99, right? Well, if it costs the company $2, that's how much you pay, $2. So this was like $119 as opposed to being $199. I was like, oh yeah, shoot, I'm gonna buy this. And I remember I was trying to save some money, but you know what? Let me buy this. I got it. Why not? So yeah, it was just a cool story I thought I'd share on the air. So I'm actually going to take a break, and then I'll be back with some of the things that just annoyed me in the world of SummerSlam.
As Brian H. Waters has distinguishedly said, we as wrestling fans will no longer use following terms. Terms that, as wrestling fans, we have no business using in reference and or sports entertainment. With that being said, on anything wrestling run related, we will no longer use the following terms: mark, work, ring rat.
All right, folks, I'm back. So make sure you subscribe to the Wrestling Realm. That was just a clip of our DX promo. That's the State of Professional Wrestling address. A lot of stuff that's got to be said, folks. So the real Dwayne and Allen and I took the time to do so. So like I said, make sure, let me go ahead and throw that on the screen. You can follow us on Twitter at Wrestling Realm. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Also, go ahead and like the Facebook fan page. It's available for you to do so. So make sure you do that. So now let's get into some of the things that has annoyed me. Finn Balor winning the WWE Universal Championship. Not going to say it was a high annoyance because at the time, believe it or not, it was actually, as much as I get on Seth Rollins right now, I was rooting for him. Seth Rollins had just returned from, or maybe not just returned. I got to think back to the year. He had lost the title, I think. And he had lost the WWE Championship to Ambrose. And it felt like, okay, we're going to build Raw around him. And I was like, okay, cool. So why not put the Universal title on him? It was weird seeing Finn Balor come up, but then he beat Roman Reigns in the qualifying match. And I was like, oh, so maybe they got big plans for him. But I started thinking, I said, what if Kevin Owens would have won on this night? What if they would have just gave him the rocket ship from there? We all know Balor would win the title. Then he hurt his shoulder during the match. So he never got a chance to defend it. Never really got a really good shot at it again. He had to face Lesnar, for goodness sake, I think. But I wish they would have gave him another opportunity to run with it. But after he lost, they had a fatal four-way match. Big Cass, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Kevin Owens. It was elimination. And it came down to Owens and Rollins. Owens wins, and he holds the title until Fastlane. I mean, I thought he had a decent run. Some people thought he didn't. But I just wondered, what if Kevin Owens would have had the opportunity to run with the strap here? You just never know. So it didn't annoy me as much as some of these other moments I'm going to name, but it did make me wonder. So I didn't want to put it on the other list. But moving on. Now this moment really annoyed me. SummerSlam 1993. Lex Luger defeats Yokozuna via countout and celebrates as if he had did what we all had hoped he would do, and that was win the WWE Championship. Now, I know some people out there probably saying, I want him to win, whatever. Look, I'm speaking from a 6-year-old, turning 7-year-old boy. I remember my parents had ordered this for me. And we go back to when he body slammed Yokozuna. See, before that, he was the narcissist. He was annoying. Didn't like him. But at that time, when wrestler turned face, I liked him instantly. It was, it's what you did as a child. So when he body slammed Yokozuna, I said, all right, cool. You know what? Maybe he can do it. And we get to SummerSlam, and I remember watching. I'm on, on the edge of my parents' bed. And I'm just hoping he gets it done. And he doesn't. But they celebrated as if he did. Everybody came out there. They played his music. And I'm like, as a child, I'm like, so you can't restart the match? Like, I was so disappointed. And I still, to this day, don't understand why he had to have that celebration. As if he won the title. So it was one of the things that really annoyed me with this SummerSlam. Another one, 1999, SummerSlam 99. Just watched this earlier. Mick Foley, Mankind defeating Stone Cold and Triple H to win the WWE Championship. Why? I won't understand why they didn't put the strap on Triple H. Didn't really like him as much at the time, but he was the hottest heel in the business. Everybody knew during the summer that Triple H was getting the title around SummerSlam. I remember this. Everybody knew it. And I just didn't understand why they waited, and I heard that, There's rumors that Austin didn't want to drop it to him. He'd rather drop the Foley and let Foley drop it the next night. Austin was on his way out. And this is where I understand. Like, why not? No, check him. Like, at the end of the day, Vince, you're in charge. Check him. You going with Triple H. Triple H is going to hold the title really till Survivor Series. Yeah, he had that little incident where he lost it to Vince and then it was vacated. He got it back. But he's really running with the title of Survivor Series. Why not win it at SummerSlam? It would have been memorable. So I talked about this earlier, this next moment. And this is the final moment on this list. It really annoyed me, folks. It really, really annoyed me. And that is when the Viper, Randy Orton, cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase on Daniel Bryan. This right here would it's actually the cover of the freaking Blu-ray. Like I said, I love the match between Bryan and Cena so much. You see right on here on the back, Bryan is actually holding the championship. I loved it so much I ordered it, but because I love that match. But I was so annoyed. Anybody remembers? I was definitely running around, irritated to the fullest. Still mad about it. But I mean, granted, I guess it made sense. You know, Bryan would win the belt the next month, but it was a fast count, so he had to drop. I think he ended up losing the title. I think they vacated. He ended up losing it, and he finally got his run, sorta. When he got the yes movement, but I'm listening to the book now. Apparently that was a shoot that wasn't supposed to happen. So, but nonetheless, these are the moments that really, really annoyed me with SummerSlam. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on this episode, on this ride, as I go back and just discuss some of the SummerSlam moments. I definitely encourage you, share with me some of your favorite moments, some moments that wasn't on this list, some moments that people don't always talk about. Obviously, it's the biggest part of the summer. There's so many moments that you know, that could have been on this list. You know, I didn't go back to stuff before I was born. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't go back before that. I didn't really go heavy into the ruthless aggression era because, to be honest with you, from 04 to about 09, I was watching wrestling. I was, you know, every week it was routine, but it was kind of on like an autopilot. A lot of the stuff, you know, I remember, but I don't. It's some stuff, there's a lot of hidden pieces like, oh yeah, this did happen. I don't remember it like I remember the Attitude Era. I don't remember like I remember the New Generation Era. I'm just called for what it is. Like I said, I was just, you know, between it being in high school, you know, and community college and, you know, all the other stuff that comes at that age. It was just like, okay, cool. But, you know, from 2011 till now, yeah, I'm pretty solid. But that's it, folks. You know, wow, when you think about 2011, that's when, you know, well, 2010 was when I first started doing this type of content. So yeah, it's been 10 years. But that'll do it for this episode of Break It Down with Brian H. Getting ready for SummerSlam this Sunday. I may do a prediction show, I may not, but I'm definitely excited for it. I will not be in the Thunderdome, but make sure you check out the next show coming up, which will be the women of SummerSlam, as I discuss some of the iconic women's matches. So long, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Break It Down with Brian H. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell so you get notified every time the Wrestling Wrealm posts new content.